All right, we're talking with Chris Prefontaine, chairman and founder of Smart Real Estate Coach. Chris, welcome to the show. Got a lot of
Thanks,
great
Joe.
stuff.
Appreciate it. Love
Yeah,
being
you
here.
bet. Got a lot of great stuff to talk about. I usually like to go back and talk about what your background is and where you're coming from and what things you were doing before you got into real estate.
Well, I'll date myself here, but I've been at this 33 years, as you probably know. So
Yeah.
I went from, buying land on terms way back when I didn't even know what that was in my late 20s. I started in 91, to owning a brokerage, to building homes. And then I eventually sold my brokerage to a coldwell banker in 2000. So from that point to the crash, I worked my own properties and learned the hard way during the crash, what it means to be personally signed on a bunch of loans when the market goes sideways. So that was the impetus, Joe, to get us where we are today. When I say we have a family company. My son and I still buy and sell right around the New England area, the ways that we'll talk about, you and I. But then with Smart Real Estate Coach, we teach, coach, and mentor, but do deals with students. We rev share, so we're in the deal. We do that all over North America, mostly the United States. So we've got about 140 or so people like you and I out there doing deals that get to interactively learn with us as they do deals. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. So you've pretty much been in real estate and in the entrepreneurial role since you were really young.
Yeah, yeah, I dated myself quite a bit there, but hey, it's interesting because real estate, the one constant in real estate is it always changes, and the crash made me pivot big time and to do what we're doing today. So you couldn't have told me then it was a good thing, but it was a great thing because it caused us to go creative real estate.
Yeah. And so really before we get rolling on everything you're going to talk about, I wanted to ask like, for those young people out there, you started down this road when you were in your early 20s, didn't go get a regular job with a
Mm.
salary or an hourly wage. You probably had some of those maybe when you're younger or whatever, but how often was it a struggle? I mean, it had to be a struggle in the beginning, but how often were people, parents, pressure to just go get a job? Why are you messing around with this? You're not making money. Like what? And can you talk about the mentality of that? And looking back on it, like, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't give up and go get a job. You just address all that because a lot of younger folks are, they're really they do, entrepreneurship is a struggle in the beginning. It's really hard to get ahead, and you got bills to pay, and
Yeah.
talk about that mentality.
Well, and entrepreneurship, to your point, is hard, right? It's hard.
Mm.
Entrepreneurship is hard. Running your own business is hard. I got fired. So I grew up in a family company, not real estate. And in 1991, when my father sold his company, I think it was like end of 90. I was in this new company and they fired me like within a month. So I had kids that were like 1 and 2 years old. I had a mortgage. I had a car payment or two actually. And they said, you're done. And they gave me a month severance. So at that time, luckily, I had my left toe in the real estate waters.
Yeah.
My father would network and do side deals with people, so I knew of it, and I always was intrigued by it. But I was elated and nervous at the same time. Elated that okay, cool, I can go do what I want to do, and nervous because I just started a family and I had bills to pay.
Hmm.
Now, what I will say to anyone, any age, frankly, you mentioned young, of course, because I was in my like 25-ish when this happened. I would tell, and veterans, I would tell you this. I don't care what business we happen to be talking real estate. I don't care what business it is, though. There are people right now, you can find them, and Joe and others can help you find them that are where you want to be. So don't do the route of entrepreneurship, but don't do it alone. There's no reason to.
Yeah.
Get out and go hard and fast and do that with someone that's already been there. Why recreate the wheel? I know what your thought is on that, Joe, but I'm real strong about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people, if you find the person who is already where you want to be and you get in touch with them and you say, would you be my mentor and teach me how you've done it? Most people are very happy to help out. Now, some of them may not be understand the concept of mentoring, or they may not be the best coach, or they may not think that they really have a lot to offer in some cases, but never have had anybody ever say, no, I don't, I'm not helping you. If you just get to them and ask for help, um, they will help you. Some of them are going to be better at it than others, of course, but most people, especially the older they are, love giving back, and the idea that they're helping somebody that wants to come along behind them and do what they're doing. You just love the idea. So you just got to find that person and approach them in the right way. And don't ask them for money. Don't ask them for a job.
Yeah,
Ask them for a mentor. Makes a big.
100%. You know what came to mind, Joe, when you said that? And I should have thought of this before coming on your show, knowing your audience. what started, there was a few things that started Smart Real Estate Coach, but one of the two at the very beginning was a gentleman locally here at the War College, because Newport has the War College. I'm in
Yeah.
Newport, Rhode Island.
Oh yeah.
And he said, Chris, I think he was definitely in his 20s. He said, I've been 3 tours to Afghanistan. I'm done. I'm going back to Oregon and I'm going back to civilian life.
Hmm.
I heard about you. I want you to show me, coach me. I literally had him in my office and we were doing calls and doing stuff together. And then he went off and did his own thing. But that was sparked by a veteran going, I'm done. I just want to go back to this. Help me do it. Just what you and I just said. And I just thought of it as you were saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you buy, sometimes you like somebody's like selling a course on how to do a certain thing or whatever, and maybe you buy the course, and after you get a little ways into it, you're like, yeah, not for me. Oh, what a waste of money! I never should have bought that course. Way cheaper to buy that course and find out it's not for you than do all the pain and heartache and money that it would have cost you the hard way to try to figure out that it wasn't for you. So there's a lot of great information out there. There's a lot of scammers, that kind of thing, but usually you can tell people if they're legit. um, they've just formalized their training process and their mentoring process to help more people along the way. So um, anyways, so start walking us through some what your history was about getting into real estate and then ultimately leading up to where you are now.
Yeah, well, that I think the important part, just to piece this together in our short time, is the crash of '08, right? I had about 20, I don't know, 23 or 24 properties. Every single one of them I was signed on personally. So the market went down. I took a beating and it took 4 years to dig out of that, whether it was a short sale or foreclosure, whatever it was, sell it off. So then I said, all right, after getting beat up for 4 years, I finally said, a bunch of people, including my wife, say, you got to just get after it again. So I defined what's going to work. And what's going to work is how we buy today, which is owner financing, in particular, free and clear mortgage-free properties, owner financing with the seller, subject to existing financing, where I can get a house right now for 2, 3, 4% interest rate. That's cool for anyone listening. Or lease purchase. All of those don't require a bank, and that's sort of the rules we define, or I defined initially before I built the company and team around me and family. And that was don't use banks. And the other piece I didn't bring up, Joe, and we were talking off here, is I also was tired of the what I call the old way of doing real estate, which was do a deal, get paid, right? Build a house, get paid, flip a house, get paid, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've federally trademarked what we call a 3 payday system, so that as a business owner, you're a new entrepreneur, you're coming out of the military or whatever, you're young and you're starting a business, you want cash flow now, of course you do. But you also want monthly ongoing, you want long-term wealth. That's kind of like the ideal business model, and that's what we've designed. So it's a different quality of income versus just transactional.
Okay. All right, back talking with Chris Prefontaine, chairman and founder of Smart Real Estate Coach. All right, so Chris, somebody that's getting out of the military, which is it's great. They can while you're still in the military, you can still do this. You don't have to wait till you get out. You can actually get your feet wet and
Right.
get some momentum going. I've often said if you can get something started while you're in the military, where you got it figured out, you got your processes down. The only thing holding you back from expanding or scaling is the fact that your military job's taking up all your time.
Yeah.
When you get out, boom, you just blossom from there. So this is something that easily that you can still do while you're in the military and get a footing going, and then take off after you get out. So what's the quickest way somebody can do a deal that you're the kind you're talking about?
Yeah, I a couple comments on this. You brought up earlier about someone selling a course or doing a course, so I got a couple comments on this. Number one, I'll precede the whole thing with I'm big about free. You and I both know there's a lot of niches in real estate. They're all good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm biased to creative real estate, but they're all good. So I want to make sure, and we'll give you listeners a free book before we hang up and or get off. And it's a book. It's a hard copy. It's not electronic, and you don't pay shipping because I
Mm-hmm.
want you to have free so you can go, I like this niche or I don't. We'll also give you a class to watch. So people always say, okay, well, how quick then? To your point, if they didn't do the bridge where they're in the military or they've got their job and then they bridge it over, if they didn't do that and they like want to go fast, my answer is a little vague because I don't know the listener yet, right? Everybody has different discipline, skill set. My experience has been with all the military people we have in our community, wicked smart community. They're super, super disciplined. I love working with them, generally speaking. So if that's the case, you're going to be anywhere from 30 days to, gosh, 6, 7 months for your first deal. But let me put a number to this. Our three paydays average per deal, 45 grand to 350 grand per deal, all three paydays. They're not small deals. Even though the price range might be small, these deals are not small based on the federally trademark system we have. And that's a game changer. Quick story. So Rick was in the government, worked for the government for 30 years and was kind of bummed out with his retirement. He's like, I don't see, like, I see myself still working when I'm 70. So he came in the community a couple of years ago. He's now a certified coach. His first 5 deals, they were all six-figure deals, Joe, all. So he said, okay, I see the clear path. I get the three paydays going. I have cash flow going. And my first 4 or 5 deals were over 100 each. Boom. And he left his job after 30 years. Now he had tried wholesaling and tinkering with other niches until he found us. It was a tough path. So we do have kind of a proven path to either escape the military or escape the W-2 or make that move you want to make.
Mm-hmm. So can you dig into a little more detail about what a typical deal looks like or the kind of criteria you're looking for?
Yeah, so those three methods I gave you are all sort of a little different. So I'll be very brief and you can peel it back if you want. When we look for owner financing deals, we want free and clear properties. So you literally can get a list and we show you how to target free and clear properties. Why? Because they typically don't need the money. They're mortgage free. Presumably, they may have already done a refi if they needed cash, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we can structure payments to them, and usually it's principal only. That's 0% interest, principal only payments to the seller as the bank for a limited amount of time, 4 or 5 years, maybe 10 tops, and then you can have a balloon payment due. We show you how to exit that so your buyer pays that, not you. So that's the avatar of that person is they're free and clear. They're financially set up well.
Right.
Complete opposite avatar. I'm buying someone's property sub two. Quick example comes to mind. Couple down Cape Cod resort area gets a divorce, fall behind a month and a half on their payments. They need help yesterday. That's a scenario where we come in, buy the home, the loan stays in their name, but we own the home. So you're never guaranteeing debt. Now that home probably has an interest rate of like 3.8, if I recall. This is a good way for you to, even if you learn this, to buy your own home. It's a good way in any one of these strategies. And the
Mm-hmm.
last one is lease purchase. Lease purchase kind of teeters with both avatars, those that are well off, those that are financially need a fix. Because lease purchase, you're not buying it, you're just controlling it. And it's a $10 deposit the way our agreements are built. So anyone new can do that. New people tend to gravitate towards it for that reason. All these properties that I'm talking about, all these methods, we exit the same way. We put rent-to-own buyers in them that are set up to get to the end zone and qualify and cash the house out. But we go into them these three different ways. We come out the same way. I don't know if
So
that helps.
okay, so the first method, the owner owns it free and clear. What comes to mind is, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this, if somebody owns their house free and clear, are they having a difficult time selling it, or why do they want to do a deal structured like you guys want to do it with?
Yeah.
They want to do that with them because they could just lower the price until it sells.
Yeah.
Um, what?
My building comes to mind, my office building. I sold it in September of 03, but I bought it in 18. And the gentleman was free and clear. He owned one of the largest landowners in the area. He's since passed away, but he was very into real estate. Why did he specifically want owner financing stretched out over time? Tax reasons and estate and planning reasons with his daughter, his wife, and his son. So instead of leaving him a building, he's since passed, he left him a cash flow stream. His biggest issue was taxes. He did not want to have a lump sum up front. He was adamant about it. He forgot to put a prepay in, for example, with my promissory note and mortgage, and just kept asking me, please don't cash it out. Please don't cash it out. He wanted the overtime. A lot of people like that. I know people that have sold all of their properties owner financing. They just won't do it conventional.
Do you also in a deal like that, like let's say he's selling it for 400 grand, or maybe it's worth about 400. He'd have to lower the price to 350 to sell it right away. He gets a much better price by doing it your
Premium.
way. Like you don't try to get it for 350 or 325. You're actually giving him 400 or maybe even more than that because he's willing to finance it.
You're right. With the free and clear properties, they're not there to negotiate. Call it ego, call it smart financial, whatever. They always want their price. And I don't mind the price if I get my term. That building, yes, I sold it because it was the right time to sell it and I did very, very well. But that building, he put on a 20-year note. 20. If I wanted to have it still, I could have it still. But COVID changed the landscape and we didn't need that size building anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that it's very, very important to know that they can get a premium. Let's do an example. I do principal only payments, right? Your house is worth 400. You couldn't really sell for top dollar and you want some cash flow. I don't mind if I pay you 410. In 3 or 4 months, those principal only payments eat up that small premium.
Hmm.
But yet you as a seller go, oh, this is cool. I got over, what I thought I'd get in the market. So yeah.
And people are good with getting principal only payments. They're not concerned about
Most, Joe, like 98, 99% of our deals are. Now that guy was a savvy real estate guy. So here's how that conversation went. And it was a building.
that. Yeah.
When I told him, he actually read my books. He wanted to know who I was. But when I told him in his office, we do principal only, he literally is like, dumbfounded. He said, well, I want 5.25%. He's very conventional. So what we did, and he appreciated it, is I did 18 months of principal only. Then we took what was left, amortized it at his 5.2. I think I'd lowered a teeny bit, but we amortized it at a rate that was going to be 30-year amortization with a balloon in 20 years. So I got my way. I get hammered principal for 18 months. And then he got his way and he thought that was a win-win. If you're just looking for what they want, right? You're just solving problems. You're not trying to convince ever. We both won.
And I'm really actually personally interested in this part. He probably owned it free and clear. Let's say he had just sold it straight up for 400 or whatever. Maybe it was a two or $300,000 gain in his on tax wise. So now he's got a two or $300,000 tax gain that he's got to pay long term capital gains, depending on how he's structured tax wise,
Right.
all at once in 1 year.
Right.
If he receives principal only payments or even a combination of principal and interest payments over many years, obviously he gets less money per year, so the tax goes lower from that way. But is how much of that? How is that money taxed?
For cap gains.
Money taxed by him? Is it still the capital gains tax?
Yeah, let me
He's
let me
on.
say it my non-accounting fashion. So I'm not a
Yeah.
CPA, but here's how it works. I'll give you round numbers. Let's say the building was he bought the building years ago because this guy's owned it for 20 years for 500 grand, and he probably had up next to zero basis. But let's say he had for my head to do the math. Let's say his basis was 250, half, right? Just so we can do the math.
Mhm.
Okay. And if my principal only payment every month was 1,000, then one half of that payment is subject to capital gains because he's got his basis was about half what the value is.
Okay, so he's paying
It's
500
proportionate.
a month.
Yeah.
So 6 grand a year on
Yeah.
capital gains on 6 grand a year instead of the full what would have been 250 in that case.
Yeah, he up front. Yep.
Yeah.
Times whatever cap gains is with his tax situation, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So he's still paying. Ultimately, he's still paying the capital gains, but
Over
just over
time.
a longer period of time, and the capital gains rate stays fixed, unless Congress changes that rate. It's not like personal income where it varies.
Right.
So, but he wanted, in his case, later in life, he also wanted a income stream for his family. Uh,
Wife and son. Son was an attorney in Chicago, thought he would buy the building for him years ago. Son goes off, gets his law degree and leaves. And he's like, I don't need the building anymore.
mhm,
So that's how that all went down. And then I think he probably knew something was going on because he did pass away towards the end before I sold it. He passed away.
mhm. Okay, and then all right. So the second example was refresh my memory.
Subject to existing financing. They call it sub two. You'll hear that mentioned online if you're studying for the listeners to know. So the beauty there is we all know going backwards in time, the rates were, gosh, record lows, right? I don't know if you and I will see those again. I don't think so. No time soon. So we're buying properties now where we go in, the owner needs a quick fix. We do make all our deals contingent upon a buyer, just so everybody doesn't get nervous about taking on property. You're going to make sure you're secure, but you're getting these properties that have 2, 3, 4, 5% interest rates. Can't get those right now. Even if you learn the skill set to buy your own personal residence and beat the market interest rate by several points, it's a win. You buy the house, the deed transfers into your trust or your entity or you, and depending on how your attorney does it, and the loan stays in their name with them personally guaranteeing it. That's what sub two means. So when they're researching this, they'll understand it.
I did some of those deals probably 15, 20 years ago where you buy the house, try to get a good price on it, um, maybe even less than what they owe, and then you make their mortgage payment for them. But
Oh,
yet,
it is.
yet you transfer the deed into your name, so you have the deed, so you are the owner. And then the idea is maybe put a renter in there or rent to lease to own renter in there, that kind of thing.
Yeah. We do a lot of rent to own, but like I've got properties. I sold one last week that started out as a lease purchase. This is everybody's brains thinking. Very simple lease purchase back in 2013. turned it into a sub two a couple years into the term because they got comfortable with me, and then just sold it. So we had a rent-to-own buyer in there that defaulted years ago, and so he stayed as a tenant, loved the house, kept paying like clockwork, and I finally just said we got a part. The market's good. So he went off and did his own thing and started a kennel, and I sold the property up. But that was a nice, strong rental. We don't exit out of everything. By choice, we stay in some.
Yeah. Um, and then the third example,
Lease purchase, it's super simple because there's no deed. You have a house for, let's use the 400 one that we did. 400 grand or 500, sorry, 500 grand. Your mortgage is 250. All I'm guaranteeing you with a lease purchase is I'm going to make your monthly mortgage payment once I secure my buyer. And then that 250 equity, you're locking that in for the end of the term. Call it 3 years or 4 years. So as a homeowner, you're not getting a commission, you're not getting any of those garbage expenses, and you're getting your full equity out. My purchase price is what? Your equity of 250 because you owe 250 on a 500 in the balance of your mortgage at the time I cash it out, which is what? Lower than 250 now, right? That's how I benefit through the term.
okay, yeah, yeah. So how hard is it to find these deals, and what kind of methods you typically go about to hunt them down? Is it kind of like looking
Yep.
for a needle in a haystack?
No, most people's goals can be solved with one of our services that so you don't have to go deep into any lists yet. You just go through the service that feeds you expired listings that didn't sell in the open market for sale by owners and for rent by owners. A lot of the tired landlords in there. Those three sources with our scripts will get you enough deals with, remember what I told you, the profitability wise, talking 45 grand to 350 a deal. How many of those you need to replace or create a nice income for yourself if you're new?
Yeah. It, do most of these deal, but do most of these deals take a few years to actually cash out?
Yeah, but you can start to, yeah, and you can start to cater them, Joe. Like if I'm a brand new student and I want to get a cash out, I'm going to push that tenant buyer, right? Keep them right to the grindstone in 2 years, hopefully get that cashed out.
Hmm.
If like the one I hung on to, he said, "Can I stay and pay rent?" I said, "Sure." I could have booted him. But I said, "Sure, stay," because I wanted to keep her. It just depends what stage of cash flow you're at in your business and your life, and we help you with that. I call it wealth stacking. We look at the portfolio and we decide, hey, you
Hmm.
want to cash out of this? You want to stay in this? You want to extend this? All kinds of options.
So all three of these examples, how often do you, the investor putting the deal together, have to come out of pocket to make one of the deals happen?
Good question. So lease purchase is only 10 bucks. That's why the new students love it, right? That's built into the agreement. You control the property. You don't have any expenses. On the sub two, remember now, they usually financially need a fix tomorrow. So you're going to probably have to come out of pocket for the transfer tax if your state has one, most do. So you're talking, 1,000 to 3,000, let's say. And if it's an owner financing deal and you're saying, I want to make principal only payments. I want to do no money down. You can't expect that seller to pay their transfer tax. They'll come out of pocket. So most of the time, you're probably paying the transfer tax on those two ownership deals and nothing on the lease purchase except for the $10 earnest deposit. But when you own, as you know, and I'm not a CPA again, but you get all that depreciation, all the tax benefits. So as you get more sophisticated, you probably move all from the lease purchase over to that vehicle because it is much more lucrative. Different
Yeah.
type of income too.
Yeah, having been a landlord in the past, actually have one Airbnb, VRBO type place right now, but VRBO is way different than being a landlord. It's a lot better. But anyways,
Right.
having been a landlord in the past, the only thing that would keep me from doing some of these deals is sounds like a lot of times you end up putting a renter or someone lease to own, lease to purchase in there, and now you're dealing with the property and things going wrong and being responsible for getting fixed and the renters and stuff. Is that any much of an issue when with what your experience has been?
I'll give you some metrics. So, because we've done hundreds, probably approaching 1,000, we've got about a 2 to 10% default rate. So most of the time, our strict process up front is giving us a buyer that's going to cash out, right?
Hmm.
Now, what if there's a snafu and they don't cash out? Then you could turn to rental, like you said, or you just could sell it off conventionally. There's all kinds of pivots, but most of the time, the rent to own buyers are there to perform and they're there to act and behave like a buyer. So they're going to put the new roof on, they're going to fix it to it. They're not calling you. You're not a landlord. They're a buyer waiting to get financing. Big difference.
Yeah. But do you maintain in any of these three scenarios, do you maintain the deed until they actually get to the point of buying?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some advanced stuff with owner financing, as you know. But yeah, for the general audience right now, yes, they are not taking ownership until they fulfill their obligation and get mortgage ready.
Okay. Well, Chris, we'll talk about your course and how people get more information on it. And then actually I don't think we've actually covered how the deal split works, or do people actually pay money for your coaching in your course, or do
It can. There's a lot. I'll give you guys the free stuff now, just for my limitations on time, but then they can decide to get more aggressive, get less aggressive, immerse with us. I'll give you the book first. The book is not one of those free offers where you got to put in shipping. There's no shipping. We ship it out of here for free. We ship you a couple of them actually. Go to wickedsmartbooks.com/Joe Crane. That's it. I'll know they came from your tribe. Love to give back to the military and make sure that the veterans get what they need for free material. So that'll be a couple books. And you can also go to smartrealestatecoach.com/masters class. That'll, if you don't mind listening to me for another 55 or so minutes, that'll give you sort of the A through Z of what we do. Both of these vehicles do one video and one book, and they're both no charge. So enjoy them. And if you want to, some of these deeper questions are all located in there.
Okay, great. Well, Chris, I do want to give you the last word. If you're talking to somebody coming out of the military or somebody who's been out for a little while, didn't really like where they landed, and looking for some way to get out, escape the job scenario in the cube farm, in regards to real estate and what your experience has been, what kind of advice comes to mind?
What comes to mind just because of where we are in the economy is in my 3+ decades, there has not been a better time for creative real estate. Simply put, there has not. And so if you ever see, and I know most people have, see or hear people go, oh, they were in this niche at this time period. And because of that, they created some pretty cool things. You got that going on right now in creative real estate. The awareness is out there big time. The demand is out there big time. And sellers and buyers need you. So get yourself in front of the right material and let's get after it together.
All right. Sounds great. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for sharing your entrepreneurial success story, and we look forward to seeing your future success.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, we're out.